Hey guys, let's continue our presentation. I'm going to remove here the components in the previous video and we're going to open up our RC elements and I'm going to add here for us in the composite components. I'm going to add this little guy here. He's a simple component. I say it's A is a compound, right? A compound, but it's a simple component. It's a he's a who, we call a card. Okay, well, let's see here the rendering of this component, here for you to follow. Here's the refresh, and there's our card and such. It was rendered with the his title and stuff and the content here. Internally we are curious, right, because he was so small, but on screen he was big. Okay, so what is the difference we have here? Okay, in this little guy. Okay, so this example here is an example, you see. Here by the title it is an example of a card with HR childs. What is HR childs is like in the previous video I started to tell you more details about the dynamic attributes of hardcore. I will present to you what it is, what is the difference in use of HR charges. So I'm going to, in this example, I'm going to grab here our HR charges. We're going to then talk in more detail here than we have here on screen. I'm going to even remove this guy here that we don't need him, and I'm going to reply here is a comment right here in mine is in my excellent to not run the line of the he childs. Okay, so I'm going to that compile back here, compile here again, application leaves. I see if he compiled and no didn't compile. Where's my dolphin? Now we have our card with the same dimension as it was on screen, so we're seeing here our card with the little effect here, oh, a light umbrella around it and a 1, a panel also highlighting, right, a header, right, in the title of our card, okay. Now it's nothing more than a container panel component that is the base of our block, and up here another container panel, another block also internal, inside the pie block itself, okay. Now we're going to do the following situation. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on the block and I'm going to insert SIG. We've seen this here previously, right? I want to insert 1 2 3 4 components here. Oh, so I threw in here 4 components SIG, each one inside of yours. Okay block, you don't have to worry too much, right? I've already told you this, we don't need to worry too much here with the alignments. I can reduce their size here, that this here won't have any effect on the final result of my application, because the blocks will realign, okay? Now let's go here, compile the project and let's understand where I want to go with HR, Charles. Okay, so there's the blocks inside the other block, right, the blocks inside the parent block. Okay, now that we're going to do it, I'm now going to run the mobile mode. Look what happened. We've already seen in the first videos that on mobile the blocks go after processing the 12 columns, and here it processed the 12 columns and automatically one fell into the other. It's just that it generated a scroll in my component. Why? Because it's just not prepared to do an expansion, so by default, such, my responsive block, if you're going to run it inside some component that's not prepared to respond to this vertical growth situation, it's going to generate SIG, the scroll, as we've seen here. So the example of hrecharge is just to cover this situation, so I'm going to take here my hrecharge, I'm going to remove my comment and I'm going to compile again, and then we're going to see the result of the process. So I'm going to go into mobile, look what happened, the difference with just one. Instruction. So what did hardcore give us? Okay, so HR people is nothing more than the responsive height, right? The acronym for responsive height, and then the childs I'm bringing here as if each block of this one that we have here were the children of my parent block. So this title here is the header of my parent block is a block, and these guys here are also each one is a block. What hrecharges does is it adds up the heights of all the blocks that are inside the pie, and automatically it expands the block pie given this sum. It's that simple. So this instruction, once again, we imagine how it would generate the result of this in CSS. And then you can now start asking me, since we've already seen some examples of dynamic attributes, you start to get curious, guys, am I going to have to memorize this all in here? Do I have to memorize every instruction and parameter of this? Well guys, fortunately not, okay. So, when you're going to use an attribute like this, for example, the hrechards, you're going to write the attribute itself. You're going to have to remember, right, that there is the hrechards, okay, but I'm going to put then hrechards and I'm going to finish with a colon, and we're going to go here to the RadCORE to give the complete, so I just have to press F3 here. The RadCORE will automatically insert the basic parameters of that instruction. Okay, in the same way, if I write here calls and from UF3, it will insert the entire existing sequence of parameters of my instruction calls and so on. Okay then. The radio code is prepared to help you. It's in this development, it's in learning, it's the use of dynamic attributes. To finish, we're going to take this attribute here and we're going to know right away what it's for. So we have here the CLS attribute. Let's compile the project. So, we have here our card. It's not that. I'm going to refresh it here and now look at what happened to our card. So the internal structure of the cardio is gone, right? By the look we're seeing, right? It's gone. In fact, it's not gone. It's still. Here it is, so the container panel by default, right, it was opted for, right, the use of the container panel because it is invisible, okay, by default it comes with the CL button face, okay, that generates it is here in the rendering, so an invisible color, okay, so this here is. Very interesting, because the blocks that we have here in Lego in the edit precisely they don't appear because they have the lipstick face. It's like a transparency, right? Let's treat it that way. Okay, so what did we do here? Oh, with the use of the CLS attribute. Okay then. By default UNIGUI, if you come such here in the attributes layout, in the UNIGUI config layout, you see a number of features here. This, guys, once again, I always make it clear, that I'm not here to denigrate the image of UNIGUI, in any way. UNIGUI brings here very powerful features, but I look at the situation with that critical eye, say hard DELPHI developer who wants to have one more facility. Okay, so when I want to apply a CSS to a native UNIGUI component, I can come here on CLS and play that. My CSS class, or if this CSS was specific to the bar, and come here and put it in here, okay, then there are these situations. I in my opinion don't agree very much. I think the resource is complex, the variety of properties that we have to resort to in order to be able to execute a certain resource. So the idea of hardcore is to shorten that path, it's to shorten the path, it's to give you more productivity in development. So with that, another attribute that was created within hardcore is the attribute with the name of the same property that UNIGUI uses, CLS, okay? So, this right here is a CSS class that goes with it, which is already inside hardcore, you don't need to know how it was done, etc., etc. Obviously, if you have knowledge of CSS you will be able to apply more things, people. But what I'm always focusing on from the beginning of the presentation is that it's looking for the initial ease of use of RadCORE, that you already come with predefined features out of the box. So here I'm simply applying a CSS to my panel pie, okay? And with that, when you apply that CSS, you see the result there where it throws in a white background and applies the shading here on the edges of my panic and automatically the rounding. Okay, guys, so we saw here the use of another hardcore feature, which is HR charges, which brings us this quick and practical visual result in building layouts of your screens without needing HTML. See you soon and I'll see you in the next video.